Thank you, Mr. President. This is difficult, as you could see with other speakers. Trying to close out something like this is hard to do. I didn't give a farewell speech in the House, probably because it was hard to do, and it is difficult to talk about accomplishments and different things that you've done. So what I'm going to try and do is talk a little bit tonight about what other people have done and what I've learned and watched in this chamber. I've learned a lot. I'd like to start with the beginning for me. As the resolution talked about being in a family-owned business, I was very fortunate growing up. I grew up with both my parents, both sets of my grandparents, second aunts and uncles. I know most of them. It goes on and on. I've been very fortunate to have a great family, and I learned a lot from them. My grandfather, Grandpa Casperson, and my dad started the business that was referenced. And so as a little boy, I remember being with them. I remember a particular day, a big snow day, and my dad brought me up to the woods with them. They just simply went up to kind of clear the snow and get everything out of the way so the next day they could actually get some production. But I remember as a little boy sitting on my grandpa's lap on the dozer with the big blade on it, plowing snow, and I never forgot it. And I just felt so fortunate to be able to be there with them and be a part of that. And I grew up with that. And my dad was the type of man that he believed in hard work. He believed you don't ask for money first, you show people your worth, and that hard work matters. And I grew up with that as a young kid, and I grew up just totally respecting my dad. I know my mother had a lot to do with it because my dad wasn't around much because he was working so much. So I know why the framework of looking at my dad came from my mom as a young boy growing up. And then I got to work with my dad, and everything she said about him was absolutely true. And so all of that built up to where I am today, and I'm very proud of the fact that I followed my dad and my grandpa, and that I had a business that we were involved in for all those years. It's something that I'm the most proud of. And when I graduated from high school, something happened that motivated me a little bit, and it's kind of a cute story. I don't think the person that said what he said to me meant anything really by it. He was just having conversation. But that summer, I was at an event, and one of my high school teachers came up to me and, "Tom, how's it going?" And he said, "So what are you going to do? Where are you going to school?" I said, "Well, I'm not going to school. I'm heading right into the business with my dad. I'm going to be a log truck driver." And I kind of stunned him for a minute, and he kind of stared at me, and that would have been back in 1977. And he said, "Tom, you can't challenge yourself any more than that." And I remember those words, and I thought in my brain, I'm thinking, my goodness, have you ever driven a log truck? Have you ever went in the woods, tried to get a load out of the woods? Have you ever maintained something like that? Have you signed a payroll check? Have you kept a business running? Have you done all those things? Was what was going through my head. But he was my teacher, and I had respect for him. And I just said, I think it's going to be pretty challenging, and he let it go. The irony of that teacher that asked me that question is he was my government teacher in high school. And we've had different conversations since then, and he's been very good to me since then. But that motivated me. It really did. Because I felt like for many years my education was what I was doing with my dad. I knew how to overhaul trucks. I knew how to do just about anything you needed to do with equipment. I knew how to do it. There wasn't too many pieces of equipment I didn't know how to run because I loved doing it. And so that was the beginning. When I reached the end of that, I was by then paying attention to what was going on within government. And I come to the conclusion that what we are witnessing is the government in action, and in a sense you could argue working in the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be of, for, and by the people. It's just a matter of who's going in and who's getting involved. And you can sit back on the sidelines and complain all day long, but if you're not going to get involved, you better stop complaining. Well, for my case, I was never involved other than my industry. But I mean, I never ran for anything. I didn't go to city council meetings. I didn't go to county board meetings. You name it. The only thing I did was go to my quarterly road commission meetings in my district and met with those guys because of the industry I was in, and we had a pretty good working relationship. We worked together on a lot of issues to move forward. But after a tragic accident, and a young woman lost her life with her 2-year-old daughter, my industry was involved in it. It moved me, it changed me. And it bothered me when I tried to work with the group of people that all came together, we all worked as a team, and I couldn't get the government to step up and help us. They seem to want to put roadblocks and make it difficult for us. And I thought, that's wrong. It's just wrong. And so my wife and I, after that incident happened, my wife and I talked about it, and I told her, someday, if the opportunity came, I'm going to run for public office. And she kind of laughed at me and kind of just dismissed it like, yeah, right, that's never going to happen. And in 2002, the opportunity came, and I made a run for the House. Wasn't easy. I came from an area that traditionally voted to the Democratic side of the equation. They certainly weren't, in fact, I would argue in many cases, Republicans were putting names on the ballot just to put a name there. Our districts, our area was a place where the Democrats, once they got past the primary, they were working on other races. So when I put my hat in the ring to run as a Republican, it was, in fact, I was approached by someone from the Democratic side challenging me not to do that, and that if I put my hat in on the other side of the equation, they'd clear the field and I'd be the next state representative. But I knew that I wasn't a diehard one way or the other, but I certainly leaned a lot heavier on the Republican side of the equation than I did the other side. And so I thought it's better to do that, be who you are, and let people know that, and run for office. So we did. 3 weeks later, I found out who my opponent was, and it was Lori Stupek, Bart Stupek, my congressman's wife, big name in my district, well-respected. And I thought, what have we just done? And really thought we're in trouble. But no, we stuck together, and we were determined to win. And I think one of the things that made us successful in the beginning was we didn't realize we couldn't win. With the deck stacked against us with that, you're not going to win this thing. And we didn't realize that, so we just kept plowing forward. And I found out in that first race, the way you win is a team effort. No one person is the end all. And boy, did I put a team together. We put what we call the kitchen committee together, and we ran for office. Now you got to realize the kitchen committee, for the most part, there wasn't too many there that were politically involved at all. We were all novices, and this was going to be quite an endeavor. But we did it. The team hung together. I need to shout out a name right now to all of you for two reasons. One is he was instrumental in helping us put the team together, and he was one of the main reasons I got across the finish line. And his name is Frank Egler. And I don't know how many in here remember or know Frank. Frank's around here. But he was my first field staff. Frank was a true believer. And Frank, he motivated us, I guess would be the best way to put it, but he helped us put together a team second to none. And I will be, for the rest of my life, forever grateful for what he did. So I rise tonight to inform you that Frank is in the hospital, and he could use our prayers. And I don't know the extent of it, but he clearly needs our prayers. So please pray for Frank. And so we go through this thing, we get to the finish line, we win. It was, now what do I do? Because I had no experience, but there are people I need to thank. I mentioned Frank. Governor Engler. Governor Engler back in the day, he was leaving when I was coming in. He actually got involved in our race and was instrumental in helping put some things together for me that actually helped the end result. And I'll forever be grateful for Governor Engler's help as well. Some of the people that I worked with in the House, I want to mention some of the names for those of us that are in the same class are going to probably ring a bell and bring back some memories, hopefully fond ones. But before I go through that list, because I want to bring up Jack Brandenburg, because Jack and I are in the same class. We came in together through the House and the Senate. But Jack, there needs to be a point of clarification with your speech that I think I can bring a lot of light to shed a lot of light on it. Jack talked about his encounter and his conversation with the Honorable Senator Coleman Young, and he didn't really give you a clear picture of what happened that night, and I thought maybe I could shed some light on it because I sat right in front of Jack Brandenburg that night, and really Coleman Young bears most of the responsibility for that encounter because if you knew Jack and know Jack, Jack's the kind of guy that likes to talk to you face to face, nose to nose. Let's talk it out. And Coleman decided he was going to stay way over on the other end of the chamber, behind his desk, and tell Jack what he thought. And he kept doing that till Jack couldn't take it anymore. And if you take a look at these desks, they're quite big. I can assure you, Jack Brandenburg's desk ended up on the top of my chair and pinning me down into my desk as he crawled over the top of John Pastor to get to Coleman so he could have that nose-to-nose conversation. So all I'm saying is, I was there, Jack, and it wasn't quite as calm as you kind of made it out to me. I thought people should know that. And thank God for the Redcoats over there because they came from everywhere and calmed Jack down. And I'm just simply saying, had Coleman gone around and had a nose-to-nose, well, maybe a nose-to-belly conversation with Jack, this would have never happened, and it would have been smoother. So hopefully we all learned something from that one. So Jack, I just had to mention that to clear the record up. Some of the people that we worked with, Larry Julian. Larry Julian was the fastest guy on the gavel that I've ever seen in my life. If you remember how he run the floor, it was like a drill sergeant. He did a heck of a job. Larry was my mentor. I carry this pin. This was a gift from Larry when I came into office. Larry came up and helped us in that first campaign, and I will always remember Larry, and I'm so grateful. Scott Shackleton. Scott Shackleton was the other Republican on the east end of the UP, and Scott, as I got to know him in his last term, really had become, in my opinion, a very good legislator. He was sharp. He knew the issues. And I remember seeing him give a floor speech when he left, and I thought, there's something wrong. He didn't do anything wrong. He's doing a great job for the people, and he's got to leave. But I just wanted to shout out that Scott Shackleton was someone that I certainly remembered and appreciated his leadership in helping me. The guy that really, from the legislative part of it, it was instrumental for me, Rick Johnson, the Speaker of the House. Rick's talent that I noticed was Rick knew how to protect us. He knew and understood our districts, and he always tried to do what was right by us if he could, to keep us together, but also protect us and help us in tough votes. And Rick was always there for me that way, and I always appreciate it, and I'll never forget it. John Llewellyn. John Llewellyn also was very good at his craft and was very good at protecting us when the arrows were coming. John knew how to handle them, and I wanted to thank John. Kevin Elsenheimer was another one. Jeff Hansen, Kevin Elsenheimer, us, Hayford, those were some fond memories. But the ones that really helped me in that moment were Jason and Suzanne Allen. I have to give a shout out to the two of them, but just not them. Meredith and Amanda, their two little children, now grown up. Mark, I didn't get to know Mark because after I had left, Mark came afterwards, but I did get to watch Meredith and Amanda grow up, and I can remember going home down here with them, and the two kids would be there, and they'd greet you at the door just like your own kids. That was a blessing to have something like that for the 6 years I was in the House. And, you know, this business is kind of a goofy business. It pits friends against friends sometimes. And Jason and I found ourselves in that position. But in spite of all that, I just want to say thank you to both of them. They have been good friends. And Suzanne, I think Jeff might have mentioned, you know, when we all answer to Suzanne, that was true. But we did that for a good reason, because she's very good at what she does. And Suzanne knew how to protect us as well. And I will be forever grateful for that. Amanda and Meredith, their two daughters, actually stood in my daughter's wedding. So we do have a connection, and I hope that as the years pass, the race goes behind us, and we get that behind us, and we'll always stay friends. Bruce Patterson, he's a guy that I guess if you look at his size, when he's next to me, for some reason I have this habit of people doing this to me, but when he talks to me, And I think Jack may have done this too, but hey, Tommy. I'm Tommy to these big guys, and I don't understand that, but he calls me Tommy. But he's been a dear friend. He's been a loyal supporter of mine. I found out early on, if you want to get to Bruce Patterson, bring him some Orange Crush Pop, and you're in. And I actually did it. I brought a brown paper bag, if you can imagine that, over here to the Senate floor when I was in the House, set it right down by Bruce, and just tapped on his shoulder and said, hey, I got something I got to talk to you about, but enjoy. For now, I'll talk to you later. And I left him the Orange Crush Pop, and we worked everything out later on. It was fabulous. So, and he has stayed loyal and has been a good friend ever since. Joel Sheltron. Joel and I thought, formed a heck of a team when it came to natural resources. We went out of the majority, went into the minority. Joel became the chairman of natural resources. I was his vice chair. Hard to divide us. And we would work together as a team, and we got a lot done. And I learned early on with Joel, by doing that, if we can find ways to do that between Republicans and Democrats and find our commonality, we're unstoppable if we can do those things. Governor Granholm. Governor Granholm signed probably what I would deem to be one of the most important pieces of legislation I was able to get passed, and it was the mining legislation, Part 632. You hear it talked about a lot. I actually testified over in Wisconsin with the Senate Natural Resource Committee because they wanted to hear how we got 632 done, and they wanted to emulate it. And it's been used pretty regularly. And so it was Governor Granholm that was, she stepped up to the plate, signed it, and I want to thank her for that because she didn't have to. There certainly could have been enough opposition for her not to do it, but she did. Craig DeRoche, who was my second leader. Craig DeRoche, we all know, has lived with some problems. He's fought some demons. But having gotten to know him now and listen to his testimony, I'm so proud of Craig DeRoche for what he has done and how he has tried to turn things around for the better. And I just want Craig to know that I hope he keeps the faith. His testimony is a powerful one. I've been able to hear it. I encourage anybody, if you get to talk to him or hear him, you should listen. It is quite a testimony. Scott Hummel. Scott Hummel's still in the House, working the House. But Scott Hummel was one of the first guys to greet me when I came into the House. And Scott Hummel was the guy that hooked me up with a Bible study group that meets every Wednesday morning at 7 o'clock. I encourage everybody in here because it'll continue on after we leave. It's a great time, and it's a great way to hold each other accountable. And I've been doing that for almost 16 years now. And Scott Hummel was the one that encouraged me to go, and I think Mike Green and others were there before us that actually set that in place, or the wheels in motion. But it has been absolutely wonderful to be a part of, and I will forever be grateful for that and the friendships that came out of it. When I left the House, ran for Congress, we knew it was a long shot, but when we ran for Congress, we were floundering to actually have a campaign. And this gal by the name of Carla Garcia came up north, and she was going to help me. Now, the results didn't turn out the best because we were in a President Obama type wave. That's what happened. And a great congressman, quite frankly. He did his homework. He worked hard in his district, and it was Bart Stupak. But Carla came up, and she really breathed life into the campaign because of her work ethic, and she just knew how to put the pieces together and really set the stage for what was going to happen for me 2 years later. And so then Carla proceeded to come back on board with me when I made my run for the Senate. And because of Carla's leadership and the team effort, we ended up being successful in getting into the 38th Senate District. Not having a history of too many Republicans ever sitting in the seat, I think that was quite a feat. And the only way that happened was the team effort. Some of the issues that we dealt, or some of the people that I dealt with in the Senate, and the things that I learned. Randy Richardville, our leader, he was another one. Now, that guy was kind of small, but he'd call me Tommy. I never could figure that out. But Randy, too, understood the dynamics of the districts and worked very hard to make sure that what we did not get ourselves in trouble, and he tried always to make sure that what we were doing was good for our back home districts when he could, and I always appreciated that. Colonel Papa George, he got so much grief over those charts, but I loved it. Because I'm a picture guy. So I like looking at books with pictures. I'm not a big reader, so Papa George was right up my alley because of his charts, and I could always understand what he was driving at, and a lot of it always made sense to me. Howard Walker, I don't know how many people in here would remember, but I think one of his famous lines was, "Screw you, dude." And Howard has always been a great guy to work with. Howard and I came in together. We were part of the same class in the House, and then he ran for the Senate and was successful, so it was great to get back with Howard. And just was always a good friend and always kind of a mentor to help me avoid landmines. Judy Emmons. Judy, I would call you a great counselor. You always had an ear, and I could talk to you, and you always helped me try to avoid landmines, but you always gave me time, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I think our kinship with our Bible studies and our faith just go hand in hand, so thank you for your friendship, Judy. Mike Noss. Mike, you helped a constituent of mine that I will never forget, and I know he won't. Mr. Anderson, state trooper. And, you know, we get kind of demonized a little bit if we do something that's part of our background. And most recently, I've been attacked because of my background, and I'm thinking, well, I know the issue. Why would I not fight for the issue? You, as a state trooper, and knowing those issues, you were the right man to do this. And I came to you for help. And you helped us put together something that helped. There's not many of them left, but some of the oldest amongst us that were retired troopers that kind of got left behind. And you were willing to not let them go, even though you were the younger group. And, you know, you didn't have the problem. You weren't doing it for yourself, Mike. You did it for Mr. Anderson and those left behind. So thank you for what you did. You certainly made his day. And you are a good leader, Mike. Thank you. Jeff Hansen, mentioned you before. I guess I got to mention you again. It's been a good 8 years. We've been roommates for 8 years now, not just across the street. We made a move 2 years ago and moved across to the Capitol, and that's been a good move. We've had some good times. The thing, Jeff, that I want to mention that a lot of people don't get to see, because, you know, when you live with somebody like that, you get to know them a little bit, is your example and how you've lived. And I know, Jeff, you've gone through some tough stuff. And I was somewhat involved a little bit when what happened with Colin happened. And I want you to know that you and Tammy are, what an example, how you have handled it. And I know it's not easy. I've talked with you before, and it'll never go away. Don't understand the loss you went through. I haven't gone through that. But how you and Tammy handled yourself through all of it, and how you still remaining strong. I just want to say thank you, because it's been a great example to watch, and I've been able to be front and center watching it. So would you please pass that on to Tammy as well? Thank you. I put these two names together for another reason. John Prose, Phil Pavlov, the dynamic duo. I too have to say again, thank you for your examples. Phil, you have been the most spectacular vice chair ever. I put you through the ringer, and you've been there. Thank you, Phil, for that. But more importantly, to the two of you, I screwed up a while ago, 4 years ago, 5, I don't even remember how long ago, but I let my emotions get the best of me, and it played out against the two of you in the wrong way. And so there needed to be a sorry offered up, which I did, including your staff. But I've also come to understand that saying sorry, that's easy. Accepting it and continuing to be friends and move forward, that's hard. And both of you did it and have done it in such a way. I'm just so impressed with both of you and how you've done that. I'm grateful that you allowed me to continue to be your friends and forgave me for a shortcoming that I had. And thank both of you for that. Thank you. Ken Horn, my other vice chair, you are an honorable man. Ken, I worked with you when you were over in the House. We served together for several years in the House, but I also worked with you on some stuff, and how you handled things and helped me when you were in the House. I'm forever grateful, and I can tell you when you did that, the issue moved forward fairly easy because of how you handled yourself. You too have gone through some tough times, and how you've handled it are an example to all of us. So thank you for being who you are. Dave Robertson, all I can think of is passion. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If we could bottle up your passion, Dave, and sprinkle it out to everybody and give everybody a little bit of it, wow, the things we could get done. You came in for the right reasons, Dave, and it's that passion that you bring with you that really, I think, has made you successful. I would also say that I'd be happy to drop a word with the operating engineers, because now that I've seen you on a backhoe, I know you're capable, and I appreciated your friendship and your wife and the time you spent with us up in the UP. Thank you, Dave, for your friendship. Arlen Meekoff, the times you spent in the UP, I can remember rainy days and you're knocking on doors trying to help me get elected, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm a long shot, and he's still up here pounding away. So never forgot that, Arlen. Thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership. I've been a blessed man to be a part of this caucus. Thank you. Darwin Boer, my wingman. Man, we've had fun, haven't we? We call each other our wingman, but Darwin early on has been there, and I remember the House days, and I remember saying the way we're going to solve the timber issues, where the legislature at least pays attention to the industry, is we've got to stop the idea that check with Casperson on that. And that's what I heard a lot in the House. And then all of a sudden, here comes this Darwin Boer. And this Boer guy just takes up those issues and starts running with them, and he's taking a stand. And I'm thinking, that's fabulous. And you never backed off, Darwin. You kept it going. I knew the tide was turning, and that the chamber actually would look at those issues as being just as important as other industries, and realizing we need to do better at it. And I think it's because of your leadership, Darwin, that we turned the page. But it has been an honor to have you as my wingman, and I want to thank you for that. Mike Colwell, another UP honorary Uper. Mike has always been there for us. You spent a lot of time in the UP, appreciate that. A guy all the way from Oakland County spending time up there as much as you have is pretty impressive. Mike Colwell was in the UP in 2002. When I ran for the House, I had no clue who this guy was, and he shows up at an event when this novice Casperson guy is going to run for State House, didn't have a clue what to even say to people or how to say it, and Mike comes up, and he's knocking it out of the park for me at this event and said, we got to get behind Casperson. So thank you for coming up and doing that for me, Mike. And you've never stopped. You've always been there. Thank you for that. Margaret O'Brien, another honorary Uper. Margaret, wow, you're another one with that Spitfire passion. It's amazing to watch you. But Margaret, most notably, was in the Upper Peninsula up in Marquette. It's almost embarrassing to tell you this, but I was tired. I was punchy. I just needed some time, and we're in this big group. We're doing the round robin, going through, and what are the issues going on that we need to know about. And I got up and I gave some goofy, I'm not even sure what I said, and I sat down. Margaret gets up, and she gives this entire entourage about what's needed in the UP, what's going on, why it needs to happen, what we're fighting for, what you need to be protected from. She described my district better than I could have described it, and I'm like, holy man, where did you come from? And everybody's applauding, and I'm thinking, how did that just happen? But that's how much she's been involved in the district. So Margaret, thank you, and it has been just a blessing to know you and call you my friend. And you too have spent some time with us up in the UP, and hope that's not the end. I hope this isn't the end. Tanya Shootmaker, I can tell you this, Tanya, no matter what you do, you have my vote, always. You always do. I'll tell you, Tanya, I've used you a lot in the district when I've tried to describe to people how this process works, and it's not an easy process, and people sometimes wonder, well, why can't you get the votes? Why can't you get the votes? And then I have to explain to them, our districts are different. all the districts are different, and you have to try to respect each other's districts and where they come from. It's just the way it is. And Tanya, you gave me a vote one time that I will never forget, and it was an issue that I know everybody's tired of hearing, but it was the wolf issue. I know exactly the problem you're faced with. If I'm not mistaken, I might have even counseled you I think we have enough votes, stay away from it. And in spite of it, you gave me your vote. And I use that all the time, of how big that was, that you did that for us. Others would look at it like no big deal, but for us, it was massive. Tanya, thank you for that. John Kivala, he was mentioned the other day. I lost a good friend in John. I didn't know him that long, but when I did, in getting to know him, boy, did it change the dynamics. It really did. I'm going to miss John. I miss John. His family has been just a blessing to get to know them. John left us far too early, so we will never forget. Jim Ananick. Jim Ananick started out when he came in as my vice chair in transportation. So I got to know him a little bit right away. Boy, this guy's a nice guy. He's easy to work with. He's not throwing bombs, trying to, do the political stuff. He's just trying to solve problems, and I always had a lot of respect for that. And I just wanted to say thank you, Jim, for your friendship. He replaced the guy, John Gleason. We remember John. I was running into a problem in the chamber here towards the end, just like we are now at this time of the year, and I had a lot of bills that had been held up in the House, and all of a sudden the dam broke, and they're all coming over here, and I got they're going up in the board, and I was struggling getting immediate effect votes. So, boy, I got to go find some people to help me, and I'm over there scrambling with my colleagues on the other side. If I could just get a vote, just get a vote. And again, John Gleason says, Tommy, you need an IE vote? I said, boy, John, I sure could use that. He said, I got your back. I went back and sat down, and John covered me the rest of the day and got all the bills through. And he didn't have to do that, but he did, and I'll never forget that. I appreciate it. Ian Conyer, my vice chair now, same thing. Great guy. Came in. I'm kind of naive, expecting that the natural cause is to go after guys and try to throw grenades and bombs and prove that your side is right and our side is wrong, and never did that. He's been a team player all the way, and I think has a wonderful, bright future ahead of him. And Ian, thank you for your friendship. Rebecca Warren, my vice chair in natural resources. Rebecca, we are oil and water. There's no other way to describe it. I think our colleagues at times went out and got popcorn when they'd see the two of us going to get up and talk about the issue. But I can tell everybody this, whether it was behind the scenes, here, wherever, you too have been a class act and have a way about yourself to describe your differences, and you're respectful with it. And I've always appreciated that. In fact, I tried desperately to figure out how can we work together on something. We just recently passed a bill together. It was a good thing. And I was glad that I could do that with you, Rebecca, so thank you for that. I have to do a shout out to Dick Postumus. Dick Postumus was running for governor when I ran for the House. Dick Postumus shared his time in my district with me. He didn't know me from Adam. And kind of liked the guy. I thought he was a pretty good guy, and he was really giving of himself. I heard Dick's testimony, I believe, at a breakfast that John, you had put on. And it's quite an impressive testimony. And again, I think the thing that's impressive is he doesn't say it much, he lives it. And I want to say thank you to Dick for his friendship. Darren Ackerman as well has been a great guy to work with. Governor Snyder, we came in together. As much of you can say the same thing. Governor Snyder, I'm sure would say he's not a perfect man, but Governor Snyder helped play a role with all of us to turn the direction of this state. And I would not stand here and tell you the state's perfect and everything's humming and we've got it all made. But I can tell you from experience, it clearly has turned around and it's moving in a better direction. And I think a lot of the credit is due to Governor Snyder. I've watched him in action in my district when people baited him to get involved in politics and tear down the other side and pick up our side. And he literally refused and said, I'm not here to do that. I'm here to be your governor, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do to fix this state. And I had so much respect for him when I heard him say that, because it would have been so easy to jump in and go, and he wouldn't do it. Some of the other folks, quickly to say thank you. It goes without saying, many of the folks out in the hall, the lobby corps, there's so many of them that I've gotten to know and appreciate the work they do as well. And I just want to give a shout out to all of them. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for the friendships. Some of the people that I've worked with, Rich Bowman with the Nature Conservancy. I need to say thank you to Rich. Rich, too, is a guy that we've disagreed with on occasion, but what a class act. And he makes it easy to talk to him even though you disagree. And he's helped us. He's actually come in with solutions with some of the issues we've had. I will always remember that, and I really appreciate what Rich Bowman has done. Another guy that probably is out of the character for where I'm at on the issues that you would think that's odd, but Robert Gordon. Robert Gordon is our liaison to the Sierra Club. Robert Gordon was one of the only guys within all those groups that came in regularly into my office and sat down, and he'd talk to me for 15, 20 minutes about all the issues. Never once was there an argument, never once was there this battle. It was just a casual conversation about our disagreements and suggestions to one another, how maybe we someday could work together and find a way to fix those differences. And for that, I appreciate it, and thank you, Robert, for your leadership. And Mike Ferlin and the sergeants. Mike, thank you. Thank you. You're a very sincere man. And early on, I had some experience where I actually needed you. And I watched you in action, and so impressed with how you handled the situation, and you always do. But I've learned from you, Mike. Thank you for your leadership, and your whole team has been sincere and wonderful. I guess now's the time to talk about my staff. This is probably where it gets off the rails for me. First of all, we've had a lot of interns that have come in and out, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to say thank you. We've had great people, young people that have come through, and they've been a great help to our office, so I appreciate that. Andrew Pike was a guy that did the front office for me when we first came in. Andrew Pike, Marty and I were interviewing Andrew, and when he left, we talked about it, and I said, could we do a background check on this guy? He's way too good for this job. There's something not right here. And we did do a check, had a check done on him, and he's squeaky clean. Well, boy, that's good. He committed to me for 4 years. He's a teacher by trade, and he wanted to get involved in the government and politics and just try it. And so he left the teaching profession for 4 years, kept his word, stayed with us for 4, but his heart was with the kids. And he teaches in South Korea. So Andrew ended up back in South Korea teaching with his kids, and I remember at his desk, he always had a picture of the kids at his desk. And so we lost a good man in Andrew, but we lost him to a good cause, back to teaching. Then Hannah Kissling came in, and anybody in this chamber that knows the Kissling family knows we've got a good one. And Hannah picked right up where Andrew left off and has done a wonderful job, and has just been spectacular in how she's been able to handle scheduling, constituent work. We've even done double duty and had her do some of the work on the committee stuff. And it seems like whatever we give Hannah, she can take it on and takes it on willingly and is very good at it. But that comes from a good family. And then Linda Fotenhauer. Linda's been with me from the beginning. Linda was with me in the house. Some may not know this, but I'll share a little secret with you. Linda is my sister-in-law. Linda came from Escanaba down to Lansing with me. Her family, her kids were going to school down here, so a lot of her family was in this area. And so it was a nice fit for Linda, but she also knew the district very well. Linda, I don't know, I wouldn't say she's the only one because I don't know your offices that well, but I can tell you I was a little bit surprised and happy. Linda actually had letters to the editor talking about Linda and how good she was at what she did. Too often we get credit and our staff gets it all done, and they actually understood the difference, and Linda got the credit, and I was so happy for Linda that she was acknowledged that way. Very blessed to have the people that I have that stayed with me, and I can say, like everybody else, I have the best staff, but they have been so loyal, and the district has benefited from it. Kendra Everett, I watched her with her old boss, Cameron Brown, when I was in the middle of the Senate and House. She was testifying in a committee. I watched her testify on behalf of her boss, Cameron Brown, and I thought, wow, is she good? She was this soft-spoken, direct person that could pick out pieces out of the bill and knew what to say, and could have an exchange with somebody that was so even-keeled. And so hence the term velvet hammer became Kendra Everett. But I went to Kendra and I said at that meeting, and I said, Kendra, I'm a long shot, but if I get into the Senate, is there any chance you'd come and work for me? And she started laughing in that soft way, and she said, yeah, and I found out later she did laugh at me because she didn't think I was coming back. But to her credit, when we did come back, she did come on board, and wow, what a team. And her sister, Kara, and I think Darwin had mentioned it, some in here and some out there probably don't know it, but Kara and Kendra have switched places, and I've had Kara fill in for Kendra when she wasn't there, and we held our meetings in the office, and nobody knew the difference. So life went on, and what a blessing to have the two of them. All good stuff. So that leaves my work wife, Marty. Marty and I, for those that don't know, go back quite a ways. Marty was this little runt, and he was little at one time when I first knew Marty. And if you can imagine in high school, seeing this beautiful young girl, and you know you'd love to date her, and you ask her out, and she's actually going to go. And then when you start dating her, her father, good man, he suggests when I take this young girl out that this little kid come with. That was Marty. And so I had him in the back seat in tow on occasion with dates, and his dad, I don't know, for some reason thought that was a good idea. I didn't see the logic in that at all, but that started a friendship that's hard to beat. I grew up with two sisters and never had a brother. If I had a brother, it would be Marty. Loyal, defends me to the death. I don't know why, but he does. But we have been together almost from the beginning. I mentioned Frank Egler early. He came on quickly into the house, but left. He knew that wasn't for him. Marty came on and has been with me ever since. And I think we made a heck of a team. And I'll be forever grateful for that. Quickly, I need to talk about my beautiful wife, Diane. She wasn't too sure about this thing in the beginning, and I wasn't really that sure myself when we started, but when she committed to me, she was all in, and she's never looked back, and that includes surviving cancer twice. And in the midst of all that, they're defending me and fighting for me and campaigning for me, and has just been spectacular. I wouldn't be here, and I mean that sincerely. If Diane had not been with me, I would not be here. I love her. She is the love of my life. She has given me 4 beautiful children: Ashley, Tommy, Hillary, and Dane. Ashley was 15 years old when I ran for office. Ashley is 31 now. Tommy is 13, was 13. He is 29 years old now. Hillary is 8 years old, and she's now 24. Dane was 7 years old when I ran for office. He is now 23. All 4 of my children are married. My daughter Ashley has given me 3 beautiful grandbabies. My son Tommy has given me a grandson. And I'm having words with Hillary and Dane as to what the holdup is, but hopefully they'll be coming. I'm going to end with something that I think most people know, but every now and then you need a good reminder. I have to thank Dr. Bison and Dr. Cantfield. It's amazing when you're doctors, you take that oath and you take it pretty serious. And I got to see it in action. Thought I was having a heart attack sitting right here a while back. Told Marty, need help. And he took off running out of the chambers. And next thing you know, Dr. Cantfield's in tow. He's in my office. We settled it. You're not having a heart attack, but there's something else wrong, but it's not a heart attack. But the pain was so intense, I thought that's where I was heading. And just very grateful for his taking his profession that serious and being helpful. I mentioned Dr. Bison because when I found out I was struggling with something and they told me I was having a muscle disorder, but I wasn't quite sure, Dr. Bison came to me humbly and said, if you want me to, I think I can help. He said, the University of Michigan is doing a lot of research on muscle disorders, and I think I could make a call to help, but I don't want to impose myself or anything. He was just he's such a humble man. And I said, I'll take the help. The pain was incredible. And he made that call, and the University of Michigan called me back, and that started a journey for me. But I also want to shout out and say thank you to the University of Michigan. I think I've been blessed with more days because of them, in all honesty. And so I go to the university, and within a week, they knew it wasn't a muscle disorder. They found out that it was, it looks a little different, and it's with your lung. What could that be? So I had to go down for a biopsy. And so because of the distance, hard to get everybody together. So Marty, who was there every step of the way, took me down there. My youngest son, Dane, and his wife, Brittany, came with us, and they met us over there, and my son, Tommy. And so we were there, and the rest of the family was waiting to do a conference call to give them an update of what happened. And so we do the biopsy, and I'm sitting after it's over, I'm sitting in the hospital bed. And the doctor says, it's lung cancer, stage 4. And I got to tell you, number one, I don't smoke, so to hear those words was almost like a cloud. It can't be true. But wow, that was big. And so others have done it. I need to say, I want to give praise and thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because I can tell you, I was talking to him instantly. And the question really was, why? And he tells us in his word that he never leaves us or forsakes us. And I can tell you, after getting those words, it's hard to digest that one. Because again, why? Well, we got through it. And we did the conference call. The family was notified. I guess this is the part I want to leave you with. I believe God's word to be true. I think I can prove it from the words I just told you. He will never leave you or forsake you. And you say, well, why would you say that? I can tell you that because when everybody found out what I had, every text, every card, every phone call, people were praying. He didn't leave me. He worked through every one of you that did that. And I have a good report. I feel good. The bone cancer, as far as I know, is gone. But, folks, he will never leave us or forsake us. Remember that. Thank you.